I used to believe that routine was a blessing. Wake up at 6:30, shower, black coffee, commute through great streets, packed with great people heading to great jobs. I work as a financial analyst in downtown Chicago. Corner office, glass walls, spreadsheets stacked higher than my patience. It's nothing glamorous, but it pays the mortgage on my modest condo and funds my predictable weekends. I've mastered the art of blending in. No drama, no surprises. That wasn't until before this envelope arrived. It was sitting on my kitchen counter when I got home that Tuesday evening. I distinctly remember the way the sunlight hit it. Golden, almost theatrical. And for a split second, I thought it was junk mail. Some luxury resort bullshit. But it wasn't. It was thick, heavy seal with a crimson wax. The paper felt expensive between my fingers. Embossed in black ink were 3 words. Marcus Hill. That was me. But there was no return address. I stood there longer than I like to admit before breaking the seal. Inside was a single card. You are cordially invited to spend the weekend in Blackthorn Manor. Friday through Sunday. Old friends. Good food. Closure. Ethan Blackwood. I haven't seen Ethan Blackwood in 8 years. You see, because Ethan and I went to college together. Political science majors with very different ambitions. I wanted stability. He wanted legacy. He came from money. The kind of money that buys buildings and names wings after ancestors. His family owned estates across the Midwest, and Blackthorn Manor was a crown jewel. A sprawling property deep in rural Illinois. In college, he was charismatic, magnetic, the type of guy who could convince you to jump into a frozen lake just to prove a point. He dated professors' daughters, won debate tournaments, and once disappeared for a week after getting into a fight with his father. There was always something just beneath his smile, something calculating. We drifted apart after graduation, and he inherited the empire after his father passed under what tabloids politely called unexpected circumstances. I haven't heard from him since. And now this? Closure, I muttered. Closure for what? I poured myself a glass of bourbon and sat at the counter staring at the invitation. It felt ridiculous to even consider it. But there was something in me, just curious, nostalgia, maybe even boredom, that wanted to go. A weekend away. A mini vacation? I actually laughed. Why not? I said out loud. What's the worst that could happen? A weekend away. I packed very light. 2 changes of clothes, toiletries, and a book I knew I wouldn't read. The GPS estimated a 3-hour drive. The first hour was highway, traffic, billboards, radio static. The second hour turned into farmland, endless fields stretching toward a low, overcast sky. And by the third hour, the road narrowed. Trees thickened. The cell phone service flickered. It was nearly dusk when I noticed the fog. Not thick enough to observe the road entirely, but enough to feel deliberate, like it had been placed there. I rolled down the window for a moment. The air smelled damp, metallic. The GPS rerouted twice. And finally, I turned into a long gravel driveway lined with wrought iron lantern posts. They were already lit. And at the end of the drive, Blackthorn Manor revealed itself. The mansion was enormous. Victorian architecture, dark stone, towering spires, ivy crawling up its sides like veins, warm golden light glowed from nearly every window. It looked welcoming. Luxury cars were parked outside in a semicircle out front. A red Porsche, a black Mercedes, a silver Range Rover. I wasn't the first to arrive. I stepped out of my car and the gravel crunched beneath my shoes. The air felt still, unnaturally still. Before I could knock, the door opened. Standing there was a tall, thin man, pale skin, white gloves, impeccably tailored black suit. "Good evening, Mr. Hill," he said smoothly. His voice was calm, polished. "I'm Edwin, the Blackwoods butler." I blinked. "Oh, so you were expecting me?" "Of course." He stepped aside. "Please, everybody else has already gathered in the foyer." The foyer was breathtaking. Marble floors, a massive crystal chandelier, oil paintings of stern-looking ancestors lining the walls, and standing beneath that chandelier were familiar faces. April Donovan, my ex-girlfriend from college, now a defense attorney. judging by the designer blazer and the tension in her jaw. She gave me a look halfway between surprise and discomfort. "Marcus, you came," she said. I guess I did, I said. Across the room stood Daniel Hayes, former college linebacker turned professional trainer. Broad shoulders, arms crossed. Always protective, always skeptical. Olivia Park, journalism major, sharp mind, observant eyes that miss nothing. And then there was Thomas Avery, quiet, brooding, computer science prodigy. He barely made eye contact. And then a woman I didn't recognize, mid-30s, dark green dress, composed posture. She watched everybody, not with anxiety, with interest. I made a mental note of her. There was tension in the room, polite smiles, awkward greetings. "So, does anybody know what this is all about?" Daniel said, breaking the silence. "I don't know, maybe a reunion," Olivia suggested. April scuffed. "Ethan doesn't do reunions." Before anybody could respond, a slow clap echoed from the staircase above. We all looked up, and there he was, Ethan Blackwood, descended the steps with theoretical timing. Tailored navy suit, perfect hair, that same charismatic smile. Beside him was his wife. "Marcus," he called warmly. "You made it." I forced a smile. "Hard to ignore an invitation like that," I said. He laughed. "Friends, it's been far too long," he announced, reaching the bottom step. His wife stepped forward gracefully. "And this is my wife," Ethan said proudly, "Isabella Blackwood." Isabella was stunning. Sharp cheekbones, calm, unreadable eyes. Her smile was gentle, but it didn't quite reach her gaze. "Welcome to Blackthorn Manor," she said softly. "We're so glad you all accepted." But something in her voice felt rehearsed. Ethan raised a glass. "In college, we were inseparable. Late nights, debates, mistakes, triumphs, and then life happened. Right? My father passed, I inherited responsibilities I wasn't prepared for, and I let distance grow from where there shouldn't have been any. With time, you start to realize something. Wealth fades, status fades, but unfinished business." He paused. "That lingers. So I decided, why not bring everybody together? One weekend, no distractions, no phones. I asked that you place them all there." He gestured toward a small wooden box near the staircase. "Consider it a digital detox." Daniel scoffed quietly. Ethan ignored him. "This weekend is about closure, about truth, about finally putting the past to rest." He snapped his fingers lightly. Edwin the butler appeared with a tray of champagne flutes, as if summoned by magic. Ethan took one, Isabella took another. "To old friends," Ethan said warmly. Isabella added, almost too softly, "Into honesty." We all lifted glasses. "To closure," Ethan finished. The glasses clinked, the chandelier flickered again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't about closure at all. It felt like a stage had been set, and we were already standing in our marks. I found April near the tall arch windows overlooking the estate grounds. The fog had thickened, curling across the lawn like smoke from a distant fire, and for a moment it felt like college again, like we were at some formal event we didn't belong at, sneaking away from the crowd to talk somewhere private. She turned before I could even speak. "You look exactly the same," she said. "That's either a compliment or a red flag," I said. She smirked. A little bit of both." We stood there awkwardly for a second too long. "You almost didn't come, did you?" I asked. She hesitated. "To be honest, I almost didn't," she said. "Why?" I asked. She exhaled slowly, eyes drifting toward the staircase where Ethan had disappeared. "Because Ethan doesn't do anything without a reason. Maybe he's nostalgic," I said. She gave me a look that said, "You don't believe that either." "You remember senior year?" she asked quietly. I stiffened. "April," I said. "You don't think this has anything to do with that?" Before I could respond, a voice cut in. It was Daniel. He stopped a few feet away, arms crossed. "Yeah, Marcus was always loyal." "That's not a crime," April said lightly. Daniel didn't smile. "You really buying this?" he asked me. "Buying what?" I asked him back. "This whole closure performance," he said. April sighed. "Daniel, No, April, think about it. 8 years of silence, then suddenly we're all here because Ethan feels sentimental, he said. I kept my tone neutral. People change, all right? I said. Yeah, sure. Or maybe just some of them get smarter, he said. Or some of them get paranoid. A calm voice entered from behind us. Olivia stepped forward, hands folded neatly. Daniel exhaled sharply. You don't find this weird? He asked. I find it intentional, Olivia replied. But intentional doesn't equal dangerous, she said. Intentional about what? I asked. She glanced toward the staircase. Timing, she said. Before Daniel could fire back, another voice entered, soft and measured. And memory. We turned. It was Thomas, standing only a few feet behind Olivia. I didn't even see him approach. He looked the same, thinner maybe, pale, composed. His eyes rested on each of us in turn. You all remember senior year differently, he continued calmly. That's always been fascinating to me. Daniel stiffened immediately. Don't start. Thomas gave the smallest shrug. I'm not starting anything. I'm just observing. April stepped in gently. Thomas? He looked at her for a moment too long. It's interesting how some people call it betrayal and others call it survival, he said quietly. The word survival hung heavier than betrayal. Daniel stepped forward slightly. You act like you weren't involved. Thomas' expression didn't change. I was very involved. Silence. Olivia broke it. We made choices, all of us. Thomas tilted his head. Yes, we did. The way he said it felt pointed, and I finally spoke. Look, whatever happened back then, we're here now. Maybe that's just the point, I said. Thomas' gaze shifted to me. And you still believe that? He asked. His tone wasn't mocking, it was curious. I wasn't sure which one was worse. Before I could answer, a soft voice cut in. Belief is a dangerous thing when it's misplaced. It was the woman in the green dress. She stood maybe a few feet away. She was just standing there, up close. She was even more composed than before. April blinked. I'm sorry, have we met? The woman smiled. Not properly, she said. Daniel frowned. Wait, who are you? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, her eyes moved across each of us, like she was taking inventory. And then, I was invited, she said simply. Olivia narrowed her eyes. By Ethan? A small pause. Yes, she said, but something about that felt off. April looked at me. Did Ethan mention about bringing anybody else? She said. Not that I remember, I said. Daniel shook his head. I don't remember her from school either. Thomas spoke quietly. Yeah, but that doesn't mean she wasn't there, he said. The woman glanced at him, just for a second, and for the first time, something passed between two people in that room that nobody else understood. And then she looked back at us. Oh, I think you'll remember. Eventually. And just like that, she turned and walked away. The silence she left behind was worse than anything she could have said. Daniel exhaled. Yeah, that's not weird at all, he said. April forced a small laugh. I wouldn't look too deep into it. Later on, Edwin led me upstairs shortly after. The staircase creaked under each step, not loudly, but enough to remind you that the house was old, not worn down, just aged. Intentional. The hallway stretched longer than it should have. Dark wood paneling, framed portraits, generations of black wood staring down with the same expression, calm and composed and detached. Your room, sir, Edwin said, stopping at the very end of the corridor. Of course it was at the end, I said to myself. I nodded. Thanks. He gave a small, polite bow and then turned and walked away. The room was bigger than I expected. 4-poster bed, fireplace, tall windows overlooking the fog-covered grounds, everything arranged perfectly, like no one had ever actually lived in it. Just stayed. I set my bag down on the bed and unzipped it. Shirt in the wardrobe, toiletries in the bathroom, routine, normal, grounding. And then that's when I heard something. A loud thud. Directly above me. I froze for a second, one hand still resting on the edge of my suitcase. Another sound followed. Not as loud, but a dragging noise. I looked up at the ceiling. Probably somebody settling in, I muttered. Old house, thin floors. Maybe it was the guests moving their luggage around. Made sense. So I went back to unpacking, and then I heard another sound. Like something dropped. Hard. I paused again. Listen. Nothing. No footsteps, no voices, no movement, just silence. The kind that doesn't feel empty. The kind that feels like it's waiting. I walked over to the door and I opened it. The hallway was still. Lights dim. The air quiet. Too quiet. No one stepped out of the rooms. No doors closing. No sign that anyone had heard anything. I leaned out just a little further. Hello? But there was no response. Okay, maybe you're just overthinking it, I said to myself. So I closed the door and I locked it. And I turned back towards the room. And I caught my reflection in the mirror. For a split second, I thought I saw movement behind me. I turned quickly. There was nothing. Just an empty room. Just me. I let out a small breath. Yeah, just nerves. I said quietly. That's all it was. Had to be, right?